Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, we'll be talking about ASUU strike. Yeah, some of you did ask that ASUU had called off the strike. What about ASUU? Well, Dr. Karo Ogbinaka joins us this morning. He's the ASUU chairman, University of Lagos chapter. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
All right, let's get a background first and foremost about this ASUU strike, and we'll take it from there.
It is evident that government is highly deceptive and is not interested in sustaining relative stability in our universities. If government can betray our union on the 2009 agreement, where is the basis of trust for the impending review which was due in 2012?
That was the national president of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, Nasir Isafage, on why the union is activating the industrial action after its two-day NEC meeting in Ogun State. The bone of contention is that only 2 out of 9 items of the 2009 agreement have been implemented. The review of the retirement age of professors from 65 to 70 years and the reinstatement of prematurely dissolved governing councils. But for how long will strikes continue to be the solution?
As often as government will not keep to its own term of the agreement, we will always allow for time for government to play its own part. But this time around, government have proved to be most insincere in the way it has handled the affairs of our end allowance and some other issues.
A visit to some campuses in various parts of the country shows a growing compliance level, and this is generating mixed reactions.
We as a branch must comply. We are going to have full compliance to the strike.
We are not happy with the government, and we are not also happy with the ASUU. They don't even consider that, yes, these children, they are going to be affected. Our academic calendar is going to be affected. It's going to affect our educational standards. They don't care. Every time, strike.
Of course, it will affect the academic calendar, but it is better for the academic calendar to be affected than for us to continue having the poor infrastructures we have in our Nigerian institutions.
For the records, these are some of the issues in ASUU's agreement with the federal government yet to be addressed. Funding requirements for revitalization of the Nigerian universities, federal government assistance to state universities, progressive increase in annual budgetary allocation to education to 26% between 2009 and 2020, and allowances and transfer of federal government landed property to universities. Given the pace with which these are being addressed, one wonders when the conflict would finally be resolved.
Well, there you have it, but some people think, I'm not sure that ASUU always mentions that part, the transfer of federal government landed property to ASUU. Maybe you should start from that. What's the intention of that particular clause?
Now, as of 2009, the agreement was signed. It was an agreement that started since when Obasanjo was head of state in Chagari. Through that time, federal government was moving to Abuja, and a lot of government properties that were wasting away. It was thought that if it is given to the universities, they'll be able to generate funds from that. But I want to say not much can be achieved in that direction, because most of these properties are either wasted away terribly, like the federal secretariat in Lagos, or somewhere along the line they've turned around to buy most of those properties off themselves. So not much hope, but it's there in the agreement, and it was part of the MOU the government entered into with the union.
But in spite of several ASUU strikes, infrastructure in the schools, can we say they're improving? Because, I mean, if you go back to some departments where you've been many years ago, it's dilapidating.
Well, it is part of what we call intermittent interventions. For example, the University of Lagos got some funds recently, and from TED Fund. TED Fund is part of what was in the agreement and was actually implemented, the Education Tax Fund. that was later converted into the tertiary task fund. Universities have been given this money in batches to rehabilitate old structures and to build new ones. Apart from that, the government, but that on its own is not a budgetary allocation to education. It's just like an intervention fund. But if you look at the needs assessment, you will discover that most of the infrastructural development going on in the university, they are all TED fund driven. So it's like government has abandoned its primary duties for TED fund. I agree with you that if you go to a place like the very old university like Unilag, you will see that buildings are having grasses and dilapidated. On Saturday, we went to one of the classrooms, science. The children were learning even under a leaked roof.
Wow.
And so it's a problem. But the truth is that if we relent, then whatever gains we've made will be lost.
One of the areas that was also talked about is an increased funding of education, the education sector to 26% from 2009 to the year 2020. Do you think that the federal government is working in that direction, considering the fact that it would seem that there was an increase to education in this year's budget?
It was so minimal, so meager. I always put it this way. What are the primary charges of the average Nigerian family? Are the children in school? Are they doing well? Are they well fed? Or are they begging from your neighbor's pot? And the last one is anybody sick or having health challenges in the family? These are the three primary basic charges in any family. At the level of government, it translates to health, education, and agric. Unfortunately for us in Nigeria, and very, very unfortunately, these three things, we seek them elsewhere. We get our rice, all our food from abroad. When we have real health challenges, we either go to India or South Africa or thereabout. And when we want to talk about the best schools, even secondary schools, we begin to run out of the country. And it's shameful. And I think as Nigerians, maybe you say it's a strike action, but I think we need a major struggle to put the government on track. And one thing we must note, there is nowhere in the world, even in the most advanced democracy, where government is pampered, begged, cajoled, or massaged to do what is right. All over the world, government is usually forced to do what is right. It's usually pressured to do what is right.
But again, I mean, as Chamberlain pointed out, what would you say has been, first of all, I think we should ask, what triggered this particular action? Because someone would say that there have been numerous actions you were promised, and then you go back, and then what has triggered this particular one?
You see, we've waited for 3 years. Like I said, if we relent on this struggle, then whatever we've gained in the past will be lost. We are aware of that. For 3 years, series of meetings. There's a document I will leave behind for you, and you'll see the interventions we've done between the last strike and this one. But like I always say, the same ailment, the same treatment. You won't say because you want to think out of the box and you give somebody that has headache, instead of paracetamol, you go and give another thing. So government knows. The same government, if we see signs of changes in the symptom from government, we probably will change our strategy. But I keep telling people the same ailments, the same treatment.
What can we say? You say if you relent, what you gained will be lost.
Yeah.
What can we say we've gained so far with this?
Now, over the years, the issue of brain drain is not as serious as it was before in the past. Yeah, let's take it. We are not attracting the best, even locally. Most of our best students, they still want to work in other sectors, especially the oil sector, the petrochemical sector, gas, oil sector, the banking sector, the telecommunication sector. When you, even at convocation, when vice chancellors give first-class students automatic employment, they just laugh at him. You understand? It's a system where the highest paid professor is receiving about 503,000 naira monthly.
As basic.
As that is all. That's gross. You still have to tax that one. You still have to do a lot of other things on it. That is the most any professor will receive.
Well, that's minus allowances, right?
Huh?
Is that minus allowances?
Everything. What we call CONUAS. What the allowances we're talking about now is the things we are talking about. We are working without allowances. The only thing that is added to that is housing. No other allowance. Then we have another allowance that is paid to civil servants generally. 333 naira, 33 kobo hazard allowance monthly. Now, so when you know as a scholar or as a wool